Hey everybody, welcome to Soul Food Priest with Father Ben. It is great to have you as always, and I'm here with Khira. Sylvia is on vacation, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be nice if we just showed up at her house? And
that would be funny.
I mean, just not tell her. We just show up at her house and say trick or treat.
Yeah.
Right?
She would just.
Yeah.
She would maybe hate that.
Yeah. Well, that would make.
I need some time from you people.
That'd be kind of fun, actually, just to see her reaction, just not tell her. Holy Spirit. We'll see how this goes. They. So we were thinking maybe today what we would talk about is some of our pet peeves, right? Mm-hmm. Some of the things that really get under our skin.
Yeah.
And on multiple levels.
Mm-hmm.
And with regards to food. Because I got a few 100,000 pet peeves that get under my skin with regards to food.
Apparently, peeling outward and not toward is a big pet peeve.
That's a no-no.
Yeah, that's a big pet peeve that I have just
discovered. Have you told everybody why that's a no-no, to peel outward?
Well,
because you know now. You know why this is.
I think it all unraveled here on this episode where you were like, it would splatter everywhere and you have to keep it in a nice.
So in case you didn't know, in with the good, out with the Khira. Okay.
But I have talked to so many people.
This is the way it works. When you peel away from you, it sprays potato starch or carrot starch all over the place, and then you got a big mess. But if you peel towards you, you have a nice little pile, and then of course you just toss that into the table trash, and it's not a mess.
But I'm already just peeling into the trash.
Yeah, and that way your potato falls in the trash.
It doesn't. I am that good.
So pet peeve number 1 covered. Check. Okay, so I made a little list of some of my personal food culinary pet peeves. Okay. See if any of these resonate with you. Okay. Overcooking veggies.
Yeah.
Like you get broccoli
at
a restaurant. Can I get a side of broccoli? And it's like you can cut it with a spoon.
Yeah, it's mush.
It's mush.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's not this is not nuclear physics, okay? Cross-contamination of proteins like chicken. So they'll be cutting chicken on a cutting board, and then of course they cut a tomato.
Oh.
I mean, this is a huge no-no. This is like day one. And I've been to people's homes, and I know that I don't mean this to sound like arrogant or whatever, but like I'll be over here watching as they're cooking, and the whole time I'm like, oh my gosh,
don't eat the salad.
Don't eat the salad. Okay, don't eat the salad.
You might get food poisoning.
Right? Yeah, chicken we're cool, man, but don't eat the salad. Right? Note to self. Father Ben, you don't like tomato? No, I'm not a big fan of tomato. Yeah.
No, sorry. Yeah.
Gastrointestinal issues come to mind. So, over salting, like that, we've talked a lot about that. Like people that over salt food, and then you're in bed and your feet are the size of a watermelon.
Yeah.
Really irritates me with regards to pasta. A lot of times, you get pasta in a place and it's way over salted. They salt the water, then they salt the ingredients, then they salt the sauce or whatever. And that's assuming they don't put soy sauce or olives in it or something, or anchovies.
That's a lot of
people,
salt.
This is a biggie for men in particular. People that cook, but they don't clean as they go. I'm sure that your husband is so good about this.
Awesome.
Is there anything you want to share with the class, Khira? Is there anything?
I mean, it's like the Food Network with him.
Yeah.
He will have like all the different bowls for all the different ingredients, and he is prepped, and it looks great and everything. But once it's go time, it's like dump and all this and that, and I'm just like, oh, there's so many things. Now, he has improved, though. He has improved. He has gotten much better.
He had a culinary conversion.
He did. He's working on it, yes. But sometimes I could not enjoy the meal because I'd be looking at the mound of dishes. Or I'm like, can't we consolidate those saute pans? We don't have to really use all that stuff. Yeah, even the other night, he started to get dinner ready and started to pull out all the dishes that would be used. And I was like, already going.
You start breaking out in hives.
Yeah. But Now we have kids
And they can do the dishes.
who do the dishes.
Nice. Well, that's
so
cool.
It's not only me anymore. So
That's
I'm kind of
cool.
like, no, that's their problem now.
Well, it's really a delicate art when somebody can cook and then clean as they go.
Yeah.
Men are generally not good about that at all. And so,
Because it's very much like
100%.
get the job
like
done.
they'll have their mise en place out
Yeah.
and they're ready to rock it. But then you got to eat and there's a huge pile of dishes. I can't eat if there's a big pile of dishes.
Yeah.
So learning to clean as you go. And that especially is true for baking and pastry because especially like if you're making chocolate mousse, for instance.
Yeah.
It's a lot of components, a lot of mixing bowls and beaters and all this stuff. And it's a big pile of stuff.
Yeah.
And so for me, I can never enjoy it
Yeah.
until it's clean.
Yeah.
That's a biggie. People that waste food is kind of, for me, that's a bit of a pet peeve. Like they'll make a bunch of stuff and they're like, oh, we'll take it or we'll eat it later, and they throw it out. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
I mean, come on, right? That's a biggie. Untested recipes. You know, I didn't know, this is how naive I am, but for cookbooks, people don't have to test those recipes. They can write down anything and publish it. So a lot of the cookbooks that are sold, you know, with a famous chef or a celebrity on the front, they're not testing. They haven't tested those recipes, which is horrible because imagine somebody, it's Thanksgiving morning, and they have a big crowd coming in and they're following the recipe and they're like, what did I do? I followed this.
Yeah. I've had that several times.
Oh,
and
it's
now
not their
I'm
fault.
like, it wasn't me.
Yeah.
So much. Yeah. I mean, maybe there was a little bit, but.
I was a prep cook for this one chef. I worked for a season as a chef in Arkansas. And she had published several cookbooks, never once tested the recipes. And she wanted us to cook out of her cookbooks. And so I made the thing like 3 times. And I was like, Chef, I'm doing, I don't know what's wrong. She's like, it's probably me. I never test those. And I was like, oh my God.
Oh my goodness.
So,
yeah. Because I'm like, when I have ever done like a food and wine recipe, that's my go-to place to get a recipe is food and wine, as long as it's not too complicated, because there are some pretty complicated ones on there. But it has always been amazing.
That's good.
Completely reliable. Like, always so good.
Well tested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then sometimes you can go over here and find something on Pinterest, or you Google a recipe and you find something and it's like all recipes. Those usually go well for me.
Yeah.
So so there are some that I'll do it and I'm like, this doesn't taste right.
Right.
But every single time I've done a food and wine, it works. It works. And
yeah.
so that's my
Martha
go-to.
Stewart's.
And
always
when you said that,
well
I've gone
tested,
her.
and Julia Child. A lot of people would say Julia Child stuff is, at this point, some of it is kind of dated because it's built largely around cuisine of the 60s and 70s. And but Martha Stewart's excellent, always well tested.
Yeah.
And so that's a pet peeve. One of the other things for me, finally, this is a big one.
Okay.
When people use too much salad dressing, or they dress the salad ahead of time, so that when you sit down to eat it, it's a big soupy, vinegary mess.
Yeah.
And so, like, a lot of people tend to use way, way too much salad dressing on their salads. And so, like, that's one of the reasons why a lot of people will get it on the side. I mean, for me, I just get a salad without dressing, or I'll get oil and vinegar on the side. But, yeah, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
I have a couple of pet peeves that I was actually talking about yesterday, and it's laughing. So one is for my husband, and one is for me. So we had some friends over, and we were celebrating the newest canonizations of Saint Carlo Acutis and Saint Pier Giorgio Versati, and so we invited people over for a canonization celebration. And so my husband is grilling pork outside. And then as like a kind of a little homage to the saints who are both buried in Italy, and one was Italian, I was like, I've got some spaghetti gravy.
There you go.
Maybe that's another pet peeve, but
Yeah.
I have spaghetti gravy, and I was like, I'm going to make some spaghetti. And then we told everybody else, just bring a side.
Perfect.
So it was fun. It was a lot of fun. But like, kind of like that Friday night, we had one of those friends. He popped in for a little visit, and my husband was making fish, and he was serving it. And he just was like, okay, kids, get in here. Time to sit down. Time to sit here. The fish is ready. Dinner's ready. It's on. And this friend of ours is still there. And he's like, okay, I'm gone. Like, bye. And I'm like, I looked at my husband. I'm like, calm down. But his pet peeve is serving cold meat.
Oh, gotcha.
Serving cold fish.
Yeah.
So then everybody's over. That same guy is also over at our house yesterday. And I warned everybody, okay, the meat's about to come off the grill.
Yeah, get
It's
ready.
got to sit for a little bit,
Right.
but get ready. He gets in a mode that it's like we got to get this thing going. It's only going to stay warm for so long.
Yeah.
Like, he hates serving cold meat.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
hates it. So that's his big pet peeve. So we were laughing, making fun of him about that.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, since I'm cooking spaghetti, I realized my pet peeve is cooking overcooked pasta, or is preparing over and serving overcooked pasta.
That's an excellent point.
And
I totally agree.
I was like, so what actually got the people in the kitchen was realizing, because I had said, I'd hate cooking overcooked pasta. And they were like, is it ready? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, we're in. Okay. We're there. So everybody was like ready, knowing our two pet peeves. And but I did your little trick.
Which one?
So, because I was serving it for a lot of people, and it was angel hair. I'm like,
oh yeah. You got to be real careful.
Careful. So I put it in the strainer, immediately ran cold water on it. I put it in like a 9x13 dish, almost put ice on it because I saw you put ice on it. And I was like, yeah. I was like, ice? Really? But I think it was cold enough, and I kind of went through it, making sure it was cold enough. The cooking process had stopped, so I just let it kind of sit there for a little bit, and then right before serving it, I put there you go, the gravy on it.
Perfect.
Kind of warmed it up. How do you warm it up? Like,
I mean, so there's a couple of ways to do it. So we're talking about like shocking pasta, especially something small like angel hair that overcooks very, very quickly. And then also, I think everybody would agree, one of our pet peeves is when you order a pasta and there's water in the bottom of the bowl. Makes you kind of want to dry heave. And so, but like with angel hair, I cook it basically halfway. That's it.
Yeah.
And I do know, and every Italian and everybody has, they swear by the way they cook pasta, right? That we salt the water, we don't salt the water, we put oil, we don't put oil, we do this. I can say for myself, I'm a very firm believer in not salting the water because of what we're talking about, people over-salting.
I didn't do that.
And then after I strain it, I shock it with ice to instantaneously cement it from cooking anymore, especially with angel hair. With pappardelle, fettuccine, maybe it's less of an issue, but because you're always recooking it more. And so,
and then I thought if I put the hot gravy on there, it's going to cook it even more.
Yes.
So I just waited and let it just simmer and let the pasta just sit here for a little while until Derek brought the meat in.
Yeah, perfect.
So it could all be done.
Yeah.
This is like, this tests marriage.
No, I've required this. I've required this of the couples that I'm doing marriage prep now. You have to do two things. You have to make pasta together, and you have to put together an IKEA bookshelf. And if you can do that without somebody being dead, then you can get married. You're good.
Yeah. Well, good. And again, having kids is a good thing because now I have a son who's like, we got our daughter a vanity table, and he's like, ooh, I want to put it all together. I enjoy this.
Wow.
I'm like, have fun.
Yeah.
Again.
Now
I can back away and. Yeah.
But see, this is very helpful actually because I think we've got a good list. Maybe what we could do is put this like a list of these things so people can kind of see them too.
Yeah.
Might be good.
And
we were talking about too some of the pet peeves we've talked about before, Vatican II.
Yeah.
And
it has a bad rap.
It does have a bad rap. So, like, if you're not familiar with what we're talking about, the Second Vatican Council, 1962 to 1965, 4 sessions, 2,800 Catholic bishops from around the world. And so there's a lot of pet peeves on both sides, people on the left, people on the right, everybody, people in between. You know, it was a beautiful, wonderful thing. It was a horrible thing, people say. And so what are some of the pet peeves of people on both sides, right? And I'm sure you've heard some of that too, Khira, some of the arguments on both sides. Yeah.
Oh yeah. You hear it a lot. And especially for people who were in that generation and were kids in that generation too, who are really coming to faith formation now and who are just like, I didn't know all of this stuff, or can tell you about before Vatican II and after Vatican II and the changes and the confusion, or what catechesis looked like at a Catholic school and and about those times. And then of course you get into the 70s and they were teenagers at that time, just all of the confusion and all of that. But then you also have, there's kind of this distinct difference that has developed in the Catholic world of people who start to reject Vatican II and are very adamant about it, but then those who also just adopted all kinds of different things from misconceptions of what happened at Vatican II, that it's like, I'm happy to see we are now in a time period where we're really getting to the heart of what they intended to have happen at Vatican II, but it's taken a lot of years to get there.
What a great point. That's a really good point. So what Khira's talking about is after every single one of the ecumenical councils, the previous 20, and by the way, in case you didn't know, Catholics believe the ecumenical councils are without error, and we have to believe them. It's not negotiable, okay? Contrary to what some people would say, Catholic doctrine says that we have to believe them. And so, in a period of after every council, there's kind of this weird time where it takes a while for theology to jump from the documents to the pews, from the pews to people's lives, right? And so kind of what Khira's talking about here is that interim time plus 50 years now.
Right.
And so
because there's no internet. There's no Vatican.va to pull up all the documents. You know, there
even
wasn't
if they
access.
could, they still don't read them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really true. Well, and no, you bring up a very good point. And to that point, I think one of the pet peeves that I would have, I think you would probably agree, is that people never actually read what they said.
Yeah.
So there's 16 documents, and people on the right and the left were guilty of not actually reading what the document actually said. They were going on second, third, fourth-hand information. And then, shocker, they got a lot of it wrong. I mean, an example of that would have been one of the 16 documents is called Perfecte Caritatis, on perfect charity. And that's the decree on religious life.
Okay.
And so one of the things that they did not say was that religious sisters should do away with all religious habits. So they can make practical upgrades, so to speak. I'm paraphrasing. To make things practical. It never ever said anything about throwing away their habits, right? Which is part of their identity. Yeah. At least publicly. And so some of the communities that are thriving today actually read the documents. Yeah. And they're like, this says nothing about that. I mean, and it's really hard, to your point, for us in our own time in 2025 to mentally put ourselves back in, say, 63, 64, as they were going through the Cuban Missile Crisis and coming out of that, and Kennedy's assassination and this whole thing, and the Cold War, to put ourselves back in that time frame that they were going, what they were going through.
Yeah.
And as you said, that a lot of them, and they basically said, okay, if my bishop or my local parish priest says this, it must be true.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they went to Mass. They literally went to Mass one Sunday, and they were looking at the priest's back. And the very next Sunday, the priest is facing them speaking English.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're like, I mean, imagine if I celebrated Sunday Mass doing the opposite, how that would freak people out.
Right.
No catechesis whatsoever. And the priest's defense, a lot of them didn't receive any catechesis.
Right.
So it was just, as they would say, George Weigel says, quote, a wrenching around of the liturgical rite.
Yeah.
So it was just no catechesis.
Right.
So, and point being is a lot of them just never read it.
Yeah. Including, and this is the kind of the troubling part, but including some of the bishops. Or, you know, I mean, it came from a lot of the clergy because, like you said, the laity just, they didn't know and had always for so many years just trusted what the clergy had said. And now all of a sudden you've got all this, and you've even got too, like, you know, like sexual revolution, like all these things happening, and then all of a sudden, like, habits are gone, and all it just, there's so much upheaval and so much change that I'm sure it probably felt like it just rocked their world. But yeah, unfortunately, it really wasn't coming from the people who they trusted the most, you know,
who should have known better.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an excellent point. That at that same time, I don't know if you're familiar with a book called The Feminine Mystique by Betty Friedan.
Oh, yeah.
So that would be what they call first wave feminism, like Gloria Steinem and Betty Friedan, and so Cosmo magazine sort of really picking up steam. So all of this, the feminist movement really fit lock and key in that whole movement, right? And at the time, I mean, I just did some research on this before we started talking. So since Vatican II, they estimate that roughly 75,000 Catholic priests have left the priesthood. Wow. 75,000.
Wow.
I've known quite a few of them.
Yeah.
And since that time, when Vatican II started, and just in this country, we had roughly 180,000 religious sisters. They estimate that's just over 40,000. Wow. So there was a 75% drop in religious sisters.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. So this is, a lot of people would say that Vatican II caused this, and this is one of my pet peeves, because again, in our discussion, Vatican II clearly did not cause this. The misinterpretation of Vatican II, from people on both the right and the left, caused this. And for instance, Pope Benedict, when he was Cardinal Ratzinger in 1985, published, it was 20 years after the closing of the council, he published what's called the Ratzinger Report. It was an interview that he did with Vittorio Messori. And he talks about these misconceptions 20 years after the council. How do we get here? And he talks about feminism. He talks about the SSPX community, the Society of St. Pius X, started by Archbishop Marcel Lefebvre. And largely in 1988, he died in a state of excommunication, 91. And so he talks about these differences, right? Yeah. And that book, as we've talked about on a previous podcast, was the catalyst to that book. That year they had a synod. Some of the bishops of the world came together with John Paul II and Cardinal Ratzinger. But that book, the Ratzinger Report, was the catalyst to let them put together the Catechism of the Catholic Church. That's awesome. That was published in 1992 originally, but publicly in 1994. The original draft was published in 92, and so, in French. And then from the French to the Latin, from the Latin to the languages. But it was published originally in French because that was the language the bishops all spoke.
That's interesting.
Yeah, there was one language they all spoke, and it was French. So they published it in French, from French to Latin, what's called the Editio Typica. From there, all the languages.
Wow.
So, yeah, but it's a lot of misconceptions there.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's the story? Because that's kind of a big question, is like, I'm sure a lot of American Catholics are like, how did we, because the documents are nothing. Well, I won't say nothing, but as far as like the extreme that we see that came out of Vatican II, like some of the extreme changes, but if you're actually like being taught on what Vatican II actually did teach, it's like especially in the United States, how did this stark difference take place? Because I remember you telling me a story about when Vatican II was taking place, and there was a reporter who was announcing what was happening in the United States. And can you elaborate on that story?
Yeah, so Xavier Wren was there were reporters like this, basically, again, kind of doing, I mean, in their defense, I think what they were trying to do was basically they understood most people, most Catholics can't understand this, what they would understand as high theology, right? So I think they were trying to make it more palatable, again, and that's understandable. That's their job. The problem was they began to put their own agendas in there. And the exact same thing happened with the release of Humanae Vitae years later, is that it was leaked that there was going to be a change in the teaching on artificial means of contraception. And when it wasn't, then there was a huge backlash in '68 against Paul VI. So and then add to this some of the things that people knew at prior to the council were, as we were talking about, were instantaneously changed. So they thought, dear Lord, if they can change the Mass overnight like this, what else can they change?
Yeah.
I mean, and so like John Paul, when he was Kirovoi II, he was a bishop in Krakow, right? He published a book called Sources of Renewal, where he laid out a systematic plan of slow, gradual catechesis and implementation. Okay, that was almost unheard of. At least in the United States. There was almost zero catechesis. So, and that's really unfortunate. It's really unfortunate because, to your point, and in my assessment, I think you're spot on. It's really only 50 years on now that people are really starting to go mine the depths of these 16 documents and try to actively implement them on multiple levels.
Because I do remember reading about St. John Paul II in Weigel's book and seeing that after Vatican II, after the council, he went straight back as bishop and started implementing all these catechesis and everything. And I thought, wow, how many bishops did that? Like,
even before the council was over, he did it.
And it's just like, that was really beautiful to hear. And I just thought, I wonder how many did that, you know? And what was it? Because I guess a lot of people would be curious as to know, like, why did now St. John the 23rd, why did he feel like there needed to be another council of Vatican II and what people would think would be, you know, like the changes that would need to be made, because that's how people see it. People see Vatican II as a lot of changes were made, but it really wasn't necessarily that. So what?
Yeah, no, and it's a good question. So traditionally, whenever an ecumenical / general / universal council was called, it's called different names. There's regional councils, like we had the Council of Baltimore here in the early 1880s. Came up with the Baltimore Catechism. Then there's universal ecumenical councils. Those are the ones that are infallible. Once they're ratified by the Pope. For instance, in 325, they came up with the Nicene Creed, right? So what made this different is it was not. It was there's an expression in the church called it says a council is convoked when it is provoked.
Okay.
So there was no big heresy to deal with, like the Arian heresy. They weren't dealing with some overbearing dictator, monarch, right, that they had to deal with. Or it wasn't the Nestorian heresy or something, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing there. So 3 months after he became pope, when Roncalli, John the 23rd, decided to call the council, everybody's like, why?
Yeah.
Why, dude? I mean, do you just need more coffee? I mean, what's going on with you, man? Go eat something, have a nap, right? And it took them years to prepare for this. And when we're talking 2,800 bishops, they all got to find a place. They all speak different languages. The common language was Latin. It's the first council they ever actually had a microphone. The other councils, they didn't have a microphone. You can imagine how difficult it is to word to get down. Anyway, so he wanted to call a pastoral council, and here's one of the problems. I mean, it was what he did was good, and the result was good. The problem is, to our discussion, many people have grossly misinterpreted what the word pastoral actually means. And so, in other words, people, a lot of parish priests and bishops, and I'm sorry to say cardinals, since the time of the council, have interpreted pastoral in terms of basically not discussing difficult topics and not being honest with people because it's not pastoral.
Yeah.
But people need direction. I mean, an example in our own time would be, say, the transgender issue. They just avoid it like the plague, right? They just won't touch it. And that would be pastoral.
Yeah.
We don't talk about the elephant in the room. And so a lot of that really came in the post-conciliar years, i.e. 65 on. And so he called it with basically what he wanted to do is, and we needed it. Anybody that lived in that time, and I've talked to literally hundreds, have said, no, we needed Vatican II. He said we need some fresh air. They called it aggiornamento, like bringing in fresh air. So in other words, how do we make our teachings practical in the lives of people in the pews? And we've talked about here on the podcast before, at some point, Catholic spirituality and theology, if it's going to have an impact, has to make the leap from the classroom to the pews, and from the pews to people's lives. Otherwise, you get a generation of theologians who's teaching a new generation of theologians who's teaching a new generations of theologians. Not a bad thing, but it becomes a bit of an echoing factory. Right, and so that's why like, for instance, John Paul's theology of the body is so pertinent, because that's what he tries to do. Let's make this a lived reality. And that's I think what John the 23rd envisioned.
Because I can completely understand that. Just kind of being, I kind of call myself, like, at a certain point in time in life, when I started to learn more about my faith, and I wanted to learn more about my faith, and started digging into classes and started to do that. It was as I grew in that knowledge, then I started to tell people I'm like a cradle Catholic who converted to Catholicism, in the sense that, like, that knowledge, like, deepened the faith so much for me. So rather than, because what I would used to do was just take it all for granted. But then when I was being questioned by people, like if I was like ninth graders or my boyfriend, now husband, at the time he was converting, and he'd ask me all kinds of questions. Well, why this or why that? I didn't have the responses to all their whys or how, and I didn't have those responses. And so my initial thing to do was, well, go to the priest. He knows.
Yeah.
And he would. I mean, he was very dear to us, and poor guy. I mean, I'd see him in the parking lot and I'd be like, I got a question for you. And then, finally
you see him walking backwards.
Yeah, he's like, oh gosh, here she comes. Not now. And but then at one point he was like, now, Khira, you are going to have to read some books and take some classes. And I was like, I know, but it's just
it's easier
to ask you. I mean, you're like a walking encyclopedia. I mean, so, but I did. I started taking those classes, and then my faith life has never been the same. I just never been the same. And so that's what I appreciate most about Vatican II. And when you actually start to read the documents, like that's what they wanted to do. They wanted the laity to, it seems like, take ownership of it. Don't just, I mean, even scripture says that we grow in knowledge. We need to grow in knowledge in order to help our faith, you know. But I feel like we had just kind of gone on like autopilot and been like, well, that's for the religious.
Yeah.
That's
absolutely. That's exactly
for the clergy. And we're just going to sit here and just let them do all the work.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And in that instance, there's what's really happening, you know, in one's faith life. And perhaps that's what John the 23rd was doing, was going, okay, history right now is looking awful. You know, we've come out of a world war, Second World War. This is, there's something that has to be done in this world of hurting human beings. And then especially, you know, Industrial Revolution, the way people started to view each other. And I'm sure with World War II, and just, if we have humans who are willing to kill millions, like, I guess it just kind of started to really seem like you're really seeing the nastiness of what the fallen nature can do in a world. And how do we as a church have the people prevent something like this from happening again and know their identity? And
that's a very good point.
Because I would just say, just learning that forever changes people. And, you know, was it like that back then, where that's how, you know, people did people learn their faith, or was it just a you know, I'm just going to rely on the clergy to do all that for me?
Yeah, that's right. The year shortly before he passed, John the 23rd wrote an encyclical called Pacem in Terris, Peace on Earth, and they had just come out of the Cuban Missile Crisis thing, and that was one of the reasons he wrote it. And they were still meeting in the council, of course, when he died, and so Pacem in Terris is kind of elucidates a lot of this, right? Very germane to what was going on, and but. Yeah, I think it, like you bring up a very good point, is there was what they call altar and throne arrangements. Basically what that means is, look, theology, that's for the priests. That's for the theologians, okay? But us here on the pews, we just kind of do what we're told, and, you know, and that's how it is. But the church, the Vatican II was like, no.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't work that way. Like we are the faithful, and the magisterium working together. And as the introduction of the Catechism of the Catholic Church notes, there are definitely times that the lay faithful have to call their own religious leaders to doctrinal correction. And we have seen that more than a few times in the last few years.
Yeah.
So it goes both ways. Is there's a healthy, not just accountability, but healthy spirituality where we have, where one is helping the other grow, like two lungs breathing together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we in the canonizations of Carlos Acutis, Pier Giorgio Fossati. I mean, it was the people that said, these guys need to be canonized, and the church was like, totally agree, let's do it, man. And I think it may be helpful too, just to point out two things, in case those of who may not know. Dr. Alan Schreck has done a lot of work in trying to explain some of the dynamics of Vatican II and the documents to people who may not know. So Dr. Schreck's work from Steubenville, also very good. Number one. Number two, just kind of circling back to, because people will often ask, gosh, what about this tennis match between the left and the right?
Right.
I mean, these wars never end.
Yeah. in the church
Oh
and
my
politics.
gosh, it never
and-
ends, right? And we even see this from the election of a pope or a new bishop or a new pastor. Is this guy conservative, liberal? I mean, this is the world we live in.
Yeah, yeah.
So again, what I'm saying, I'm taking largely from Cardinal Ratzinger's book, where he talks about the problems that we saw on both sides.
Yeah.
So maybe just to circle back, may be helpful for people listening to kind of talk about that. So, yeah, so the people on the left, I'm being general, of course, but they would fall more into the camp of the spirit of Vatican II,
Yeah.
rather than the teachings of Vatican II. So basically, it's cafeteria Catholicism. I'll take this and this and this. Definitely don't want that one. I'll take half of this, and then we just kind of create our own thing. People on the right, keeping in mind there's a big difference between the Latin Mass, which is still permitted at least on some level in most dioceses, on some level, and the SSPX community, which formally split in 1988, and with the ordinations of 4 bishops by Archbishop Lefebvre. And Cardinal Ratzinger and John Paul actually called him the night before this ordination and said, if you proceed with this, it's an immediate excommunication.
Wow.
And he refused to listen. I
Wow.
mean, so this is not Father Ben's opinion. This is historical
Yeah.
fact.
Yeah.
This is fact. And so those are two very different things. And so whereas those that ascribe to the traditional Latin Mass, that's still in line with one's local bishop and with the pontiff in
Right.
Rome, right? And so so there tended to be like Lefebvre, who started SSPI, he thought Vatican II was all heresy.
Yeah.
Specifically the document Dignitatis Humanae, which John Paul II and Cardinal or Father Murray, John Courtney Murray worked very, very closely on. And that document especially kind of put him over the edge. And so he had, in fact, after the council, he published a little book called I Accuse the Council.
Ooh.
And where he basically goes through and says it was all heretical.
Ooh.
And again, to underscore something we said earlier, Catholics have to, we may not like certain teachings, right? I prefer this one more than whatever. But we still believe it was guided by the Holy Spirit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, as one of the 3 forms of infallibility, right? And so, so the point being is there's miscommunication largely, or misimplementation, I should say, on both sides.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's because that's shocking to me that was the document that he had issues with. I would have thought it might have been like Sacrosanctum Concilium, you know, like on the Mass itself, you know, on the sacred worship itself, you know, because you saw so many of those changes take place that I thought that might have been the one that he had issue with.
Yeah, and he did. But
but
Dignitatis Humanae
interesting.
It put him over the edge.
Yeah.
Yeah, because his argument, if those who may not be familiar with Dignitatis Humanae, human dignity, one of the things that it notes, right, is religious freedom. So for us today, it's a commonsensical point, right? Everybody has religious freedom. It's kind of writ into a lot of American teaching, right?
Yeah.
And it's writ into Catholic doctrine. But his argument was that non-truth has no rights. So like if somebody ascribes to something that is not the fullness of truth, they don't have rights. And then add to that the document Nostra Aetate, which is the decree on non-Christian religions such as Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism. It makes the point that God presents the possibility of salvation for every human being that's ever lived. Doesn't mean they'll all be saved.
Right.
What it means is God presents the possibility of salvation.
Yeah.
In the year 2000, years later, Ratzinger and John Paul published a document called Dominus Jesus, the Lord Jesus, where they underscore that again in September of 2000.
Right.
So they underscore again the possibility of salvation,
Right.
but that there are many religions but one God. but whether they realize it or not, they are saved through the work of Jesus Christ and the Catholic Church, right? So there's so those two things kind of put him over the edge.
That's interesting.
And he didn't like that.
Yeah.
And it is worth pointing out, Karol Wojtyła and Joseph Ratzinger knew him well at the council. So this was not like a distant figure. Yeah. They really tried to work with him. Again, they called him the night before this happened and said, please do not do this.
Yeah.
Because in doing it, it's what's called a late sententiae excommunication.
Wow.
You know, it's instantaneous per canon law. So and so we've seen in the years following Vatican II problems on both sides. Everything from the burlap banners, right? You know, to
I was thinking about throwing mine away the other day, actually.
Yeah.
I was organizing the house and was like, "Oh, really?
Yeah.
The felt banner anymore?"
Maybe well-meaning. I have to say I was happy to turn that page. Yes, and so but I think you bring up a good point. I think we're really, in my opinion, really starting to see the fruit now of the council, and Bishop Barron has made that point too.
Yeah, because you do see where, I mean, just providentially, the Holy Spirit gave us St. John Paul II and then Pope Benedict right after that to just really bring it, you know, just to really bring it even more to the people, you know, build the relationship with the people and deepen their faith a lot more and make it a lot more accessible to the people.
Indeed, yeah.
And so I think we're, you know, as they call it, the new evangelization, I think we're starting to see some of the growth of the new evangelization started.
Indeed.
that was planted then. And I guess too, like in the last few minutes, you know, I mean, there's, of course, the biggest thing when people think Vatican II, they think the changes in the Mass, you know, and because those were so visual and it really affected the people. We weren't really too sure what some of the other documents were about, but that was probably the most visual. So I'm kind of thinking like two things maybe to address, and I don't know if you just want to address one of them, but like one, what would you say the document actually said about the liturgy and how to celebrate the liturgy? And because you're talking about the right and the left, and we know, man, the liturgy really was affected by those two camps. Or I guess kind of my other thought was what were some of the really beautiful things about Vatican II that came about that a lot of people don't know about, because either never read the documents or trusted people, but it was faulty teaching. But I mean, they're beautiful documents,
very much so.
Even on the liturgy, I mean, you read the one on the liturgy, and you're like, I don't see where we got this confusion, but so I don't know what we have time for, but I'm just going to kind of throw those two things at you.
Yeah.
Whichever one you want to tackle.
Yeah. So maybe just briefly. So the liturgy, and I think pretty much everybody would agree that there, even people on the left, I think most of them would agree, if they're honest, that we had extreme abuses in those years. I mean, I remember them well from when I was growing up. And by abuses, I mean, I could talk until Christmas on this, from people using animal crackers for hosts for children at Mass, to balloon masses, to, I mean...
The liturgical dancers.
I mean, there was abuses...
Animal crackers?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, in a way to appeal to I mean, it's incredible. So this was all over the place, and again, a lot of that falls squarely on lack of catechesis, lack of understanding from the bishops, and lack of catechizing their priests to catechize their people. I mean, it's just that's how it was. Like it or not, people may not want to hear that, but a lot of that just squarely falls on leadership, and it's just how it is from the liturgical standpoint. And Sacrosanctum Concilium on the liturgy was the very first document they published. So that was in '62. They published, and so that was the very first of the 16 that they did. So and there was little to no catechesis there.
Yeah.
I mean, people doing away with tabernacles altogether. I mean, doing away with pews altogether, and just bizarre architecture, bizarre music.
Yeah.
I mean, we all lived through my generation. I'm 52, but like we all saw plenty of this on multiple levels, and that was the norm.
Yeah.
That was the norm. So if somebody came to a mass with a reverent liturgy, just a normal Novus Ordo liturgy, with a reverent liturgy and a normal architecture church, they thought it was conservative.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Even if it would be considered middle of the road today, right? For them, it was conservative.
Yeah.
Even though it's actually, as they would say, well balanced.
Right. Right.
In those days, that was like ultra conservative.
Wow.
Right. So, so maybe just some of a couple points of the beauty of the documents too, right?
Yeah.
So, like one of the documents that gets very little airplay, so to speak, was Dei Verbum, the Word of God. So the Dei Verbum was on divine revelation, and really not a long document, but
it's in the front of some Bibles.
Beautiful.
I think
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, every Catholic should read this. Every Catholic. It is not high theology. It's very accessible, totally. And I'm not exaggerating, really. It is very accessible.
I've
read
it.
Imagine, and this is Father Ben's paraphrase, okay, but it presents something that's obvious. I think a lot of people just never really, like they knew, like you ever know something but forget that you know it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And so basically what it said was that we understand revelation largely in if imagine a tripod.
Okay.
Okay. So there's three pegs. So there's the Word of God, tradition, capital T, that's passed down. St. Paul says, I pass on to you what I myself have received, right? Tradition, traditio, to pass on, right? And then the magisterium, to accurately help us interpret these things. Otherwise, you get 10,000 interpretations of one phrase.
Yeah.
Right? And so so that's it's kind of an obvious point, and a lot of Catholics like, yeah, okay, I never really thought of that, right? Because that's what we know.
Yeah.
But for people that are coming into the faith or examining it, like, wow, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Like, that's a different reality.
Right.
And so Dei Verbum is really, really a beautiful text.
Yeah.
That I think, in my opinion, doesn't get much airplay. And of course, there's other ones like Gaudium et Spes, Joy and Hope. It was the longest of every church document ever. I mean, it's a long one.
Yeah.
John Paul played a large part in that. It used to be called Schema 13 because it was even longer, and they shaved it down more. And so they called it. It was known as Schema 13 until they finally.
Yeah.
They settled in Gaudium et Spes, and so there's some good stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And there's is it Lumen Gentium where it really talks about the laity, and just letting the laity know, like, you play a vital role in the church.
And that's a lot of people consider Lumen Gentium the doctoral thesis dissertation of Vatican II, and that's the light of the nations. Lumen Gentium is what it means, right? And Ratzinger, as I think, if I'm not mistaken, was like about 35 at the time. He played a big role as a theological advisor to Cardinal Fring in the development of that text. He was a Paridi, they call him. And him and Karl Rahner, who was also there, the two of them played a pretty big role. Yves Congar. And some of these guys, Dominique Chenu, some of these guys were theological advisors. And so Lumen Gentium is really beautiful. It talks about, like Lumen Gentium 50, I think it is, talks about the nature of infallibility, and the nature of the Holy Spirit working in the faithful.
Yeah.
It talks about Mary. Mary's the last chapter, so the call to holiness.
Yeah.
There's a chapter on the call of holiness, right? So it's really good. It's really beautiful spiritual reading.
Yeah. And just so people know, I mean, you can access all of these on Vatican.va website for free. All of the church documents are up there, or you could get the really big Vatican II book.
Yeah.
But
and may Almighty God bless you. Yeah.
But they're there for us. They're accessible. And kind of you always encourage people to pray through the catechism.
Yeah.
I would say take some of those documents and take it into prayer, take it into adoration.
Exactly.
And because you might get through a paragraph and it could be so rich and so beautiful that you're like, these aren't ones that you can just breeze through the documents because they are very, very rich and very beautiful and really will astound you at the beauty, because the misconception, and that's a big pet peeve of ours, is that when you actually do look at that, they're beautiful, but growing up, you always kind of had a misconception that Vatican II was bad. Like there was something off about it.
Yeah.
And so kind of reconciling those
PR.
two, hopefully people can start reconciling the two, and that pet peeve of ours can go away.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Yeah, I mean, kind of like what we were talking about, the chapter on the universal call to holiness from Lumen Gentium. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful spiritual reading.
Yeah.
Like that's fantastic to read during Advent or Lent. It's just awesome.
Yeah.
And so really good stuff.
Yeah.
Rock on, man.
We did it.
Woo!
So
go dig in. Go dig in. If you need therapy afterwards, you can call Khira and I.
No.
Yeah. Don't forget to put soul in your food and give food to your soul. God bless you.